Hello, friends, and welcome to lesson 5 of marketing analytics, which is customer analysis. If you recollect, we had been talking about understanding data, basics of stats, data interpretation, and today we'll talk in detail about the customer analysis as we covered market analysis in lesson 4. The learning outcomes for customer analysis are: we'll talk about customer choice. Then we'll talk about one quant which is used for customer analytics, which is customer profitability. Connected to that would be customer lifetime value, which we discussed uh, on the surface level in our earlier lessons. Related to that, we'll talk about acquisition and retention of customer base. Now, when we start with the customer choice, as you know, we always say customer is the king, and understanding the customer is a crucial skill. So, here, when we talk about the customer analysis, the first thing is knowing your customer. That is, what the customers like, what they dislike, what has been their behavior, and we try to club that with the data science. But going back to the marketing process, so we'll talk basically the STP framework for the customer choice. If you remember the marketing process, we talked about these four areas under the process. So basically, the customer choice is nothing but the STP framework, which is the segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So we'll go into the depth of that to understand the customer analytics. Under STP framework, and also these days what we do is that we have coined this term KYC, know your customer. So basically, know your customer is nothing wherein you try to understand the customer and then give a tailor-made solution or a tailor-made product or service to that customer based on that choice. So that is what we call know your customer. So in the STP framework, we try to rope in the customer analytics and see what are the quants, what are the measurable parameters which we can use for customer analytics. In order to set this framework for you, what I'll be doing is I'll be talking about B2C business model, and mostly we'll talk about the fast moving consumer goods. Reason is because you are well familiar with that, and number two, there is a lot of data available for doing the customer analysis. And the most important part in STP framework is segmentation, where you try to uh, focus on the segments. So the first is how you arrive at different customer segments. So segmentation is the most important part in this. Now, when we say segmentation, so as you know, segmentation is nothing but where we divide the customer base into groups with some similar characteristics. So when we say similar characteristics, so we generally keep two parameters in mind. So either we say we compare their purchase behaviors. So maybe a certain segment of people, they have one set of behavior, so we put that as one segment. And also maybe we can also look at the parameter wherein to our marketing activities a certain segment is responding in a similar fashion. So one is based on their purchase behavior, we put them in different segment, and second is based on the pricing, promotion, tactics that we use in the past. We know that this response is the same. So that is another segmentation parameter that we use. So based on that, we do the segmentation. So if I want to take one example, let me talk about chocolate bar. So not all people like the same chocolate bar, and because could be some people may not be able to afford a particular type of chocolate bar or a particular brand of chocolate bar. So what we do is there could be many reasons. If I talk of demographics, maybe it varies with age, income, gender. So what we do is based on the choices and based on the data that is available to us, as I said, the parameters that we use, we segment them. So there are four segments that we divide the customer base into. So for four different types of candy bars of chocolate. So different segments may respond differently to marketing activities. So we try to pick the similar responses and we try to segment them. For example, you say there is sales, there is a big sale for that. So different segments for different set of people will behave differently to that sale. So based on that, we try to put that in different segments. Now, when we look at the parameters for the segmentation, as I talked about, what are the two things that we keep in mind? So, in terms of the data that is available to us, we also try to segment them. Now, but in the case of a new product which you are developing, so there may not be the historical data for that product, right? Existing product, right? Because you are developing a new product, you cannot use that data because that is historical data is not available. So what we do, we try to work on some other parameters, and these could be the demographic, geographic, and psychographic, right? When we and behavior. If we talk of demographic, you know it could be the age, it could be the income, it could be the education, and so forth, and so many things in demographic. Geographic, region-wise, you can do that segmentation. But the most important and appropriate we use is psychographic. Psychographic means there are certain customers who are very impulsive. They see a thing and immediately they buy. So, whereas there are certain who are not impulsive, right? They have a regular pattern. And similarly, behavioral. So, if I talk of behavioral, maybe we need to understand what is the purchase frequency of your customers. So if I am talking of a day, at what time of the day they generally purchase. If I'm talking of the month, at the beginning of the month, at the end of the month. If the purchase is seasonal, do they purchase on Diwali? So the purchase frequency, we need to have the historical data of that customer. The time of purchase, at what time they purchase, right? What is after how long they purchase, right? So the purchase quantity, how much they purchase in one go. Do they go, for example, for groceries every day? Or they go once a week? Or they go fortnightly? And the product ratings, do they check those? So that is very important for us for the segmentation. When we talk about targeting, so as you know, targeting is nothing but evaluating the potential profits from segments and deciding which segments to focus on. Now, for example, we have the different segmentation already done. So shall I focus on one segment? Shall I focus on all the segments? Or shall I focus on selected few? So that is what we mean by targeting. Now, this will depend on a lot of factors which we are going to discuss. and what is that analytical tool which will help us in deciding which segment to pick. So we will talk about that, and that will help us in the, the retention as well as the new acquisitions. So once we have decided, for example, we select a particular one segment. So for the promotion, we may promote our product for this segment on TV and maybe another segment on the mobile. So we do that. So some of the factors that we consider, as I said earlier, could be the segment size, whether to pick one segment, all segments, or selected few, or it can be the expected growth from that segment or group of segments, or we look at the competitors' offerings, or we look at all the three factors for that. And then we decide the medium for that segment, TV or mobile. If these are the youngsters, maybe mobile is the one. Positioning is when we try to match the choice of the customer with the closest product whose characteristics the customer is looking for. So it is matching the best product as per the customer needs. So that is what we try to position the product for. And in this, when we talk about this, not only these are the product characteristics, but it is also important how we present that product to the customer and what sort of channels we use to make that product available to the customer. So that comes in the marketing mix. So that is another marketing mix framework which we'll be doing as we progress with our sessions. So in the STP framework, the segmentation and positioning are the two framework stages which we use for customer choice. Targeting is more towards the promotion part, that is the advertising, I would say. When we talk about customer profitability, you will agree that one great customer is better than 9 bad customers. Now, what is that parameter that will decide that who our best customers are? And if I want to add a lot of such customers to my customer base, so what is that quant, what is that measurable parameter which will help me in deciding that? It is customer profitability. What is customer profitability? It is the net profit from each customer. So for example, you have a lot of customers. So how much net profit customer A brings to you, which may be 35. How much customer B is bringing, customer C and customer D. So it becomes paramount here, and it is apparent here that customer C and D are bringing more net profit. So my focus should be on them. So if I take a small example, for example, you are running a beauty hair salon in your area and you are having these customers. So from this, what you gather from these analytics, that the female customers are your great customers. So you put a star for them, and how much net profit they bring, based on that you rate them. So what you do is, based on the net profit, that is the customer profitability, you group them as your best customers or the worst customers, and then you give star rating: 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, and 5 star customers. Your 5-star customers are the best customers, and your 1-star customers are the worst customers. As you know, the 80-20 rule, that 20% of your customers, they bring around 80% of the profit. And as we know that the existing customers, if I want to bring them to the category of 5-star customers. So the cost of bringing the existing customers to that category is less as compared to getting new customers. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to bring the star 4 and 3 customers to star 5 customers. So that they add on my profit. So from 20%, if I increase my best customer base to 30%, so my profit will increase. So my strategy using the customer profitability would be that I bring in star 3, star 4 by different pricing promotion strategies to the star 5 category, and I leave the star 1 and star 2 customers on their own, and I don't invest anything on them in terms of promotion because the cost is too high to pull them to my 5-star category. So when we talk about customer profitability, I extend that profitability to lifetime, and that is what when we call CLV, customer lifetime value. So this is a measure to decide your star 5 customers for longer run. And as we discussed that the money that is required to attract new customers is 3 to 4 times more. And that is why I will use my existing customer, that is star 3 and star 4 customers, to put my money on. You also need to know what percentage of customer base you are losing every year. And also for acquisitions and retentions, you need to look at this quant, which is customer lifetime value. So when I talk of acquisition and retention, so CLV plays a very big role. Now let me try to give you one analogy which will make you understand the acquisition and retention. For example, you have a bucket, and the water inside the bucket is your customer base. So there is a capacity of the bucket, and you want to keep your water up to the full capacity. That is what we call as your customer base. Each drop that you're pouring in through the holes are your new customers, which you are keep on adding. And there is a hole at the bottom which you see of the bucket. These are your lost customers, which you are losing. Now, in order to maintain the customer base, the acquisition rate and the retention rate, there has to be a balance. Because if you can't maintain your customer base, then your business will not run. So this is what we call as acquisition, and this is what you call is the retention at the bottom. So you have to work on both the strategies and how you will do that. So the analytical tool in your hand is the customer lifetime value. So let us understand how to calculate that. So as you know, the 80-20 rule, so 20% of the customers bring 80% of the profit. So when we talk about the customer profitability in the long run, that is what is CLV. Remember, there is a cost of acquisition for each customer. So there is some sales cost. These are some of the variable cost I'm talking here, and the service cost for the customer for the lifetime. He or she has been your customer. So the simple formula for customer lifetime value is your annual profit contribution per customer. This is for the year into average number of years the customer is coming to you, minus the initial cost of acquiring a customer. So that is a simple formula that we use for calculating the CLV. Now let us try to calculate CLV through one example. a simple example. For example, you are running a coffee shop and we would like to calculate the CLV for a regular customer who is coming to you for last so many years, and this customer is your 5-star customer, and we need to know the annual profit contribution that this customer is making to your business. For example, this regular customer on each visit is spending on an average $6. So per visit, average spending is $6 by this regular 5-star customer. And this customer is coming 200 times in a year. So the customer has 200 visits per year. So he is contributing a revenue of $1,200 for 1 year. Now if we look at the formula again, annual profit contribution, whereas here we talked about the revenue. So what we do is, so we have some variable cost which could be $3. So 6 minus 3. So this $3 is the profit contribution. So 6 was the total which average spending. So we subtracted maybe the variable cost, which is 3. So it becomes 3 per visit into 200 visits per year. So the profit contribution by this customer is 600 for 1 year. And this customer you feel will be coming to you for the next 20 years. Maybe he is in late 50s, and for the next 20 years he'll keep coming. He's a loyal customer. So the total lifetime value, this contribution of this customer is 12,000. So minus the acquisition cost, in order to acquire this customer, you have spent money on different strategies. So that is 5,000 as the acquisition cost. So the CLV for this 5-star regular customer, loyal customer, is 7,000. So that is how you calculate the CLV. Now when you look at this quantitatively, in order to increase the CLV, what you can do is, maybe you can have some strategies which could be pricing and promotion strategies where the customer spends more than $6 for each visit, or maybe you try to increase the number of visits of this customer. Right? So you may also work on other strategies like lowering the variable cost or the acquisition cost, so all those things. So this is how you try to work on your retention strategy, because you want to retain this customer for 20 years, because maybe this is the highest CLV this particular customer is giving you. So that is how the customer choice to the retention strategy works here. So under the STP framework, 3 important things is the selection of the customer. For example, if you look at this infographic, so Johnson always looks at the segment of children. So there are certain medical aids and medical equipment manufacturers who are looking at old people. So that becomes their segment. Baiju app is for students. So selection is very important. Second is the acquisition and retention. So you have different ways of promotion. It can be for retention as well as for acquisition. Traditional marketing could be radio, newspaper, outdoor, or magazines. Maybe digital marketing, which we are going to discuss in detail in the future lessons. And again, for retention as well as for acquisition, you may use a trending thing, which is viral marketing. So that is all for this lesson. In this lesson, we discussed about the customer choice. We discussed in detail how CLV, that is customer lifetime value, can help you in your STP framework and also for acquisition and retention of your customers. Here is a small quiz for you. So the first question I would like to ask is how you maintain your customer base. So what are the two things you do to maintain your customer base? Do you remember that analogy of the bucket? So you need to tell me how you maintain. In STP framework, product characteristics come under S, T or P. What are the four criterions of segmentation? Four criterions of segmentation that we discussed in case of new product development. I give you some time to write your answers, and then after that I'll show you the answers. Your time begins now. Here are the answers. So you maintain your customer base by acquisition and retention. In STP, product characteristics come under positioning, that is P. Four criterions of segmentation: demographics, geographic, psychographic, and behavioral. That is all from my side, friends. If you have any questions, feel free to write to me at gcgjimt@gmail.com. You may like to do some further reading. So number one is a case study on this on Big Basket. Which is provided by one of the IIMs in India. It's a good case study. And the second one is if you want to go into the depth of CLV calculation, so you can go to this YouTube video using Excel. They explain this. So thank you very much for your time and hope you are enjoying all your lessons. See you soon with the next lesson. Goodbye.